So you're a wizard player who, despite speccing into Conjuration, casts Fireball almost every single turn. You have 8d6 set aside at any given moment, because you know as well as we do, those are the only dice you're gonna need. Most nights you have nightmares about all the goblins you've set on fire. That same old clatter of 8d6 echoing in your sleep, until you finally wake up in a cold sweat. You're so tired of casting Fireball that you're almost willing to go dig up that barbarian character sheet you buried in the backyard somewhere. If you're a spellcaster who's tired of casting the same old damage spells, we might have a remedy for your forced Fireball addiction. With our critical effects list, every damage type in the game has a chance to inflict its own uniquely debilitating condition. Though every sort of character can find its own way to capitalize on these effects, spellcasters will be able to make the most reliable use of them. Fire, frost, lightning, and everything in between have their own unique advantages in any given scenario. The overarching concept is pretty straightforward. All creatures make their saving throws against damage as they normally would. If they succeed in a save, they take reduced damage like usual. If they fail a saving throw, however, they need to keep an eye on just how badly they fail the save. If they failed the saving throw by 5 or more, they might have just suffered a critical failure. For example, let's say you're playing a wizard with a spell save DC of 13, and you just targeted a cave troll with a fireball. Ordinarily, the cave troll would roll a saving throw like usual. It can roll a 14 in the saving throw, taking half damage, or it can roll a 12 in the saving throw, taking full damage. Let's say you're using the critical effects rule set, however, and the cave troll just rolled a 7 on its saving throw. Since it failed the save by 5 or more, it just suffered a critical failure. In the case of fire damage, this means the cave troll is set ablaze. After critically failing a saving throw against a spell or effect that inflicts fire damage, you are set ablaze. While ablaze, you suffer fire damage at the start of each of your turns. The amount of fire damage you suffer is equal to either your own proficiency bonus or the proficiency bonus of your attacker, whichever is higher or whichever number is easier to discern. Your DM probably won't be able to find a monster's proficiency bonus most of the time. This damage over time effect, like with most critical effects, is endless, meaning you will continually suffer fire damage while ablaze until you use an action to extinguish the flames. When you do so, make a dexterity acrobatics check to attempt to extinguish the flames on yourself. Stop, drop, and roll. The DC of the check is the same as the DC which set you ablaze in the first place. Here's the doozy. This effect can stack infinitely. If you get set ablaze multiple times, you take damage from each separate application of the effect. If you are suffering from 3 or more applications of this effect, you're also vulnerable to fire damage. The good news is that when you use your action to successfully extinguish flames, you dispel all stacks of the effect. The bad news is that by the time you do so, you're probably already burned to a crisp. Most critical effects work this way. If you critically fail a saving throw, something bad happens. If that bad thing is a damage over time effect, it can stack multiple times, and that damage doesn't end until you use an action to try and stop it. Sometimes the bad thing isn't damage over time, but is instead a debilitating crowd control effect that eats up a turn and leaves you vulnerable. Let's talk about the chilled and frozen conditions. The chilled and frozen conditions are inflicted by cold damage. The chilled condition is inflicted when you fail a save by 5 or more, and the frozen condition is inflicted when you fail a save by 10 or more. Both effects last until the end of your next turn, so your next turn pretty much just sucks. While you're chilled, your movement speed is halved, and you can't make more than one attack during your turns, no matter what abilities you might have, as with the slow spell. Are you a 20th level fighter with action surge ready? Nope, just one attack for you while chilled. The frozen condition is much, much worse. While frozen, you are considered stunned. You are also vulnerable to cold damage and vulnerable to physical damage. If you suffer physical damage while frozen, you are vulnerable to that instance of damage, but then you're no longer frozen. The idea is that after you get frozen, some big brute with an axe comes and shatters you. You're not frozen anymore at that point, but you suffered a lot of damage from the attack. Was the attack a critical hit? Oof, you're in trouble. Here are some of the other critical effects we've designed. This will be a brief summary, but you can check out the full document on our website for a closer look. Slashing damage inflicts the bleeding condition. While bleeding, you suffer slashing damage at the start of each of your turns, and all healing you receive is halved. Good luck, healers. Bludgeoning and piercing damage inflict the sundered condition. If you're wearing heavy armor and critically fail a saving throw against bludgeoning or piercing damage, your AC is reduced by 1 until you repair your armor. For those of you wearing heavy armor, beware. You no longer gain physical damage reduction while sundered. Acid damage inflicts the melting condition. If you're wearing armor and critically fail a saving throw against acid damage, your AC is reduced by 2 until you repair your armor. You also suffer acid damage at the start of each of your turns, and lose physical damage reduction granted by heavy armor. Lightning damage is like cold damage in that it has 2 tiers of severity. If you fail a save against lightning damage by 5 or more, you become shocked. While shocked, you suffer lightning damage at the start of each of your turns and have disadvantage on saving throws against spells. If you fail a saving throw against lightning by 10 or more, you become paralyzed. If you've played D&D for long enough, you already know just how scary the paralyzed condition is. Thunder damage inflicts the Thunderstruck condition. While Thunderstruck, your movement speed is halved, and you have disadvantage on attack rolls. You can end the Thunderstruck effect by using an action to attempt a Constitution check. Poison damage inflicts the Poisoned condition. For each application of the Poison condition, you suffer poison damage at the start of each of your turns. If you're suffering for 3 or more applications of the Poisoned condition, you also have disadvantage on attack rolls. Psychic damage inflicts the Terrified condition. While terrified, your movement speed is reduced to 0, and you are vulnerable to psychic damage. Force damage inflicts the Weakened condition. While weakened, you inflict only half damage with melee weapon attacks. You can end the Weakened condition by using an action to attempt a Constitution check. Lastly, necrotic damage, the evilest of the damage types, inflicts the Necrosis condition. If you critically fail a saving throw against necrotic damage, your hit point maximum is reduced by the amount of necrotic damage inflicted. You also fail 1 death saving throw, even though you're conscious. If you become afflicted with 3 separate applications of necrosis, you suffer 3 failed death saving throws and automatically die. Warning: if your DM actually allows the necrosis condition, they're a terrible, terrible person who enjoys killing their players. With the critical effects rule set, you can experiment with all kinds of new elemental spells and debilitating conditions. Unleash your repressed pyromania in-game with fire damage. Embrace your inner control mage with cold damage. Become the storm with lightning damage, or ruin absolutely everyone's day with necrotic damage. Enjoy the mayhem, spellcasters. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on